So this is an introduction and a very high level overview over the capabilities of Business Central in the small to medium enterprise business environment. So here is my role centre, my homepage, and this is dependent on the role that you're doing. Today I'm logged in as Dan Cook, as you can see. I have super user powers and permissions, and I'm set up on my profile as a business manager. So if we just have a quick look, you can see as a business manager, I have got access to finance, banking and cash, sales and purchasing, and any setup. These are new documents, so quick actions to create a new document. And then these are my bookmarks going across the top. So if I want to go straight to customers, I can click on the button and it takes me through to the list of customers. When I click on the DC demonstration, which is my company, it always takes me back to my homepage. So as a business manager, I've got some other KPIs, business information pieces, which is things like overdue invoices. I've here got my ongoing sales. So these little tiles are called queues, CUE. And this takes me to a list of all of the documents underneath. So here I've got 53 sales orders that are outstanding, unposted in the process. And here is the list of those documents. So it gives me that bird's eye view at the top level. I've got various other queues that I can add. So this is my approvals. So I haven't got any documents to approve. And then I go down here and we've got various other charts and parts that we can add to our role center that give me, the user, the information that I need. So here we've got a business performance report looking at the top 10 customers by sales value. And when I hover over them, you can see here the Cannon Group's got 44,000 turnover, so going all the way down to all the other customers, and then down here to Antarctic Copy with 2,500 turnover. So that's giving me this bird's eye view. There are other reports under here. There's next charts, and you can look at these on a day, a week, a month, which is all standard information. So I can flip the charts to choose what I want. Over here, I've got some favourite accounts. So here I'm looking at my inventory controls, my sales ledger control, my bank account, my currencies, and then my creditors. So it gives me that bird's eye view. All of these balances, as you can see, have the blue hyperlink underneath. So I can click on those and it will drill me down into the transactions that are underneath based on the time that I'm running. Here I've got a Power BI report. This is again estimated value by customer. So we've got all the customers going across. And again, when I hover over them, it gives me the turnover by that particular customer. Again, there are different reports that you can choose. There is a standard plugin for Power BI, which is a business intelligence reporting tool from Microsoft. There is a free version, but there is also a licensed version, SaaS only. And so you can use the standard plugin, or obviously you could create your own reports and plugins into Business Central. So then we have the report inbox. So all of the reports go to, obviously, to the printer. They go to the screen, so you don't physically have to print them. But all of the reports go to PDF, they go to Excel, or they go to Word. But what we've got here is a schedule running. So this is basically running the customer detailed aging report every day at midnight. So you can schedule these reports to run daily or weekly or monthly, whatever you require, at times out of the office, so that the report is there waiting for you when you come back into the office on a Monday morning. So under the little cog up here, this is my personalize. So in the personalize, in the my settings, you can see that I have which company that I'm looking at. So I have multiple companies here that I can use. So it's a multi-company scenario, and I have different roles. So these are the different roles. So if I look here at the sales order processor, so it will just restart my home page. And here is the role center for the sales order processing clerk. So you can see it's a completely different role center. Gone is finance. I now just have sales, purchase and inventory. And I have a different set of bookmarks, and my queues are completely different. And you can see now that we've got some colour in here. So there is various weightings behind the scenes. So here we've got 21 delayed orders. So this has gone red on my role center, because obviously we don't want to have all these orders delayed. So obviously it's very quick and easy for me to click on this, shows me the list of all of these orders that are delayed, and then obviously I can go and dig down and see why. So same sort of logic, we've got the queues, we can customize this. Here I've got my customers because I'm a sales order clerk. So these are managed by this list. So you just manage list, you can add and take customers away. So it could be people you've got to call today, it could be your top customers, it could be customers on stop, whatever you need it to be. And here we've got trailing sales orders based on the month. So June, July, August, September, October, and you can see the top turquoise section is 23 released orders and 30 open orders, and nothing pending approval here. So when you hover over them, you can see them in line with the grid at the top. So we've got my items as well. I've got a different Power BI report. I've got my reports inbox. So a different role center. So I'm going to go in the back door here so that you can see the breadth and depth of the ability that Business Central has. So in essence, we've obviously got all of the setup information, but when I look here at the finance section, behind each one of these little is a rolled up tab. So here there's 11 subsections underneath general ledger. So obviously we've got chart of accounts, we've got budgets, we've got the management reporting tool, we've got VAT and so on, all the different journals. So when I look at reports, I look at financial statements, I've got 15 standard reports under there. So the basic trial balance versus budgets, the detailed trial balances, and so on and so forth. So behind each one of these rolled up menus, there is a huge amount of information behind the scenes. So we have a general ledger, we have all of our bank accounts and currencies, we have a sales ledger, a purchase ledger, there is a fixed assets module in here as well, multiple depreciation methods and multiple books of depreciation. There is obviously inventory, very simple inventory and complicated inventory, all fully integrated into the general ledger. Obviously on the sales and the purchasing side, so from a sales point of view, we have order processing with all of the different order types. So obviously there are quotes, there are sales orders, blanket sales orders are call off orders, there's then return orders, invoices and credit memos. So all of the different document types you are likely to require. Within the system, there is also a CRM system, completely different to the D365 sales module, which attracts a different license. This is contacts and opportunities and pipeline and marketing, all within the Business Central system. So there was the sales and the opportunities, and under marketing, we can do campaigns, we can do segments, so we can slice and dice the data. And we've got tasks, and we've also got, as I say, opportunities for the sales pipeline. So you have the marketing side of it, and you have the sales opportunities and pipeline. There is a world of pricing. So we have different line discounts, we have different overall invoice discounts, we've got net prices, we've got quantity breaks, the pricings and the discounts are date specific so that you can upload the new price list before it comes into being. So you don't have to down the system. There is obviously currency price lists, there's different units of measure. So there is, and it's done by customer group or by item group, or as low as one customer, one item, one price. So huge pricing module in here. The sales dataverse is the link to the other Dynamics 365 products. So things like talent, the HR, things like field service, things like jobs and projects, things like CRM sales or marketing. So Business Central now sits on what was the common data platform, is now called Dataverse. The other applications obviously attract a different license. On the purchasing side of things, you saw that we had all of the different orders. So you have all of the things from a purchasing point of view, the different types of orders, but also you have the planning side where we actually run planning worksheets in the requisition worksheet, which is a lot like an MRP, which basically goes off based on your setup to tell you what you need to buy and where you need to buy it from and when it needs to be bought by. So all of the ordering and planning is within the purchasing module. Obviously there is inventory, so there is a whole inventory ledger which has got different elements. I can't see invoicing, I can't see inventory. Oh, okay. So we have obviously items, we've got different units, we've got cost prices, and obviously there's journals and reports. And within the warehousing, there is all of the different documents coming through. So there's transfer orders, there's assembly orders. And from that point of view, the planning tab that we've just seen with the worksheets. So there are obviously pick worksheets for what needs to be put to be picked, what needs to be put away. There's movement worksheets to do the replenishment. And there is full traceability. So we've got batch and serial number traceability. There is full warehouse management as well, so completely different from just picks. There is full warehouse management with with uh, with warehouse shipments and warehouse receipts, as well as obviously picks and put away. So you can break the process into two elements. So huge amounts of warehousing, from very simple to very complicated. I touched on assembly orders, so there is the ability to have assemblies completely distinct from manufacturing. So assembly is kitting. We take 4 or 5 items and either bolt them together or put them in a bag and sell them as a kit or a pack. So we're not actually doing any sort of transformation. It's about collecting the components together and selling them either as an assembled item or as an assembly. That can be assembled to order or assembled to stock. So you actually have assembly orders here to tell the warehouse or the works team to go and build some elements. There is also jobs, so within, or jobs and projects. So within the system, we have the ability to have jobs, which has obviously got work in progress that calculates and posts through to the general ledger, and obviously budgets and job journals and invoicing from the jobs. So there is a whole jobs and projects module. So all of the things that we've talked about so far are included within the Business Central Essentials license, but the manufacturing and the service are part of the premium license and not part of the ABC package. So obviously manufacturing is an engineer to order type project, but we have obviously project design. So we have the production bill of materials, we have the routings, we have the capacity planning, we have the planning of what to buy, what to make, and when we need it all done by, and obviously all the costing and integration through. And then on the service management, we have service contracts, but also we have service orders, and we have the service dispatch board. So we have service items and service orders, and then we have the service tasks and the dispatch board, what needs doing and who's going to do it, as well as the skill zones and lots of other good stuff in there. So you can see from that the system is extremely comprehensive. It's wall to wall and floor to ceiling requirements, all comes out of one box. Two levels of license: the essentials, which covers all of the finance, jobs and warehousing and inventory, and the premium user, which incorporates all of the essentials plus manufacturing and service. So the ABC is limited purely to the essentials license. There are 2 levels of user. There is a full user, so anybody who needs to be posting transactions needs to be a full user. There is a team member, which is very cheap member. They are read anything subject to roles and permissions. They can enter a sales quote and a purchase quote, and they can approve documents as long as the approval is all within Business Central, and they can enter timesheets. So it is a very limited user. They can't enter sales and purchase orders. They can't create any static data, but they can update static data. So they couldn't create a customer, but they can amend a customer. So it tends to be either a very light user, so somebody who's perhaps just entering a timesheet, or a very high-end user, so maybe a manager or a director, because they can do approvals, and perhaps they're doing purchase order approvals, and perhaps they want to look at or run some reports. So there is a team user, which is, say, it's a very limited user. Everybody else will need to be a full user. So let's have a quick look around the system. So from the point of view of some of the functionality that is standard, so we've mentioned that we can personalize. So here is a list of my customers. If I go to the cog and I want to personalize this screen, you can see now that I've got the bar here, and when I hover over this red arrow, basically it tells me I can set the freeze pane, I can move, and I can hide. So the freeze pane is really useful in order entry. So it's exactly the same as in Excel. You set the freeze pane and then everything to the left stays frozen and everything to the right scrolls left and right. But I can also drag this column or I can hide this column. So if I don't want the postcode, then I just choose to hide the postcode and it disappears from view. And if I want the currency code over here to the other side of my balance, then I can drag the currency code over there. Once I'm done, I hit the done button. But what I can also do is add a field. So if I was looking here for let's say a customer price group, or the payments terms code. Let's look for the payments term code. I get the payments term and I drag it through to the position that I want it to be, and there is my payments term code on my screen. Once I click done, that's amendments done to my system and everything is there ready for me to use. All of these columns are sortable, as you can see, ascending, descending. So if I do ascending, then it takes my numbers from 1 upwards. So therefore I don't need to have alphabetical account numbers any longer because I can sort my columns alphabetically, and that's true for any of the columns here. So if I want to sort by salesperson, I've got all my JRs together and then all my PSs, etc. So any of the columns that I've got there are sortable, any of the columns are searchable. So if I go to the search box here and I type in CAN, then basically it's looking for anything where it's matched CAN. So I've not put in any wildcards, I've not put in any characters for capitalization. I've just put in CAN. So obviously it's found it at the beginning here, it's found it in the middle here, at the beginning here, the beginning and in the middle here. And that's true for anything that I type in here. So if I go back and we've got all our data and I type in Andy because I'm trying to find Andy, then it basically finds the contact of Andy. So the search box here is very powerful. We've also got the ability to filter. So if I click onto the filter tab here, then basically I can add a filter. So if I here want to look for just the PS, if I just want PS's, Peter Sado's account, then basically I apply this filter. And as you can see, I've now only got PS's account. If I want to add filters, so several filters, so let's say we want to filter on currency code, and let's say we want currency code for euros, so we just want to have the euro ones. Okay, I've only got €1. If I want to take the filters off, then basically I can undo the filters. So let's say we want to filter by location code to find out everybody who ships out of the yellow warehouse. So basically I can create these views or these reports actually on my screen in front of me. You can also see I've got this save button here so that I can save this report and give it a name, and then it will save that report there for me. You can see that I've saved some here already. So here's my JR and currency of EU. So I don't have to put those filters on, but you can see I filtered by currency code and I filtered by JR. So basically, if it's something that I'm doing on a regular basis, perhaps every week or a couple of times a month, then obviously you can save those reports and you don't have to apply the filters. What we also have is the ability here to push these reports out to Excel. So this report basically is going to give me anything and everything that I've actually got on my screen. So in this case, it's going to be all JR's customers that are euros. So I've clicked on the report and basically it's now given me exactly that report. So you can see it's put the headings in, it's put the filters on, and it's basically done a copy and paste. These are just fields. There's no calculations or values or anything of that nature in these whatsoever. So it literally just copies and pastes what's there. But you will also see that I can edit this in Excel. So basically when I click on the edit, you can see now this is looking at the customer card. So it's basically taking the entire customer card and dumping out all of the information, and I enable editing, it will bring that data in for me. And you can see now it's connecting to Excel live data. So I've got to sign in as Dan Cook. So hope I've remembered my password correctly. good old MFA in play here. Allow myself to sign in. And now it's going to connect that data and bring in my lines. So you can see the data connector is connected as Dan Cook. So it's now reading my permissions. It knows exactly what permissions I've got, what I can do and what I can't do. And you can see I've got all of that data. And as we scroll across here, you can see that I've got all of the information that is on that customer card. So you've got a fantastic opportunity here to edit this data. So if I take, let's take this company Antarctic copy and let's amend the name. So if I change the name here and then I hit the publish button here, then this will go back and publish that back in. So it says here published successful. So if I go back into my Business Central and I now refresh this screen, then basically there is my Antarctic copy with the change name flagged on here. So it's a live link. So if I go back to my spreadsheet and let's say we've had a scenario where the sales guy has changed. So these are all JR's reps. And if I wanted to change JR to be the new rep, then obviously I could easily copy and paste this all the way down the column. So I'm going to make a bit deliberate mistake now, and I'm going to change that to my initials, and I'm going to publish this back, and this will error because what the system is doing is validating that data is found in the table on the way back. So as I predicted, it's come back with one error, and what it's telling me, if I open the message center, is that on this customer card, the field in the salesperson code table was not found, didn't find the value of CJR. So it basically can't find my initials in that table. So if I go back here and we correct that, now let's find out who this, in fact, let's do it on this one. So let's make this one PS because we know PS is a valid one, and let's change this one back to JR because when I go back and publish this, so now I've changed the Antarctic copy, and when I publish this, then it's going to come back and update the data correctly and accept those changes because PS, as we know, is a valid supplier, a valid salesperson code. So it's publishing this back and it's going to come back and say that it's successfully published in a moment. There we go, processed one change. And it's published successfully in the workbook being updated. So if I don't save that, if I go back into here now my Antarctic copy is still there with JR, but when I refresh it, it's actually going to disappear from this screen because we have some filters on. So if I untick the filter for the for the JR, there is the Antarctic copy with a changed name that is now set to be the PS as the salesperson code from that point of view. So incredibly powerful in the right hands, could be dangerous in the wrong hands. So again, roles and permissions abound there. So we've seen how to personalize, we've seen how to sort and how to filter. If we have a look now at dimensions, dimensions are the tags that we put on transactions that allow us to get our reporting KPIs. So there is technically no limit on dimensions, but what we can do is we can specify what they want to be, and we can translate the names and the code captions as we require them. So in this demo scenario, we're looking at area, different types of business, different types of customer groups, departments, projects, salesperson, purchaser, and marketing campaign. So these are the top level areas that I want to analyze the business by. If I now go to the dimension values, these are all the values underneath the area dimension. So we're looking at the Northern Europe, Southern Europe, and then the Americas, North and South. And you can see I now have this concept of a begin total and an end total. So what this means is that I just want to look at the total of Europe, then I can just filter by dimension 55 and get the total of Europe. I don't have to run the range of 10 through to 55. So it means that if I'm just looking at the total of Europe, then I can just put that one filter on. If when I look at it, obviously I discover that I need some more information, then obviously I can open it up and look at the range. It also means that we can use dimensions for more than one thing. So if your salespeople and territories went hand in hand, by some sensible coding, you could obviously set up a territory with salespeople inside it. So filter on the territory total, that would give you your areas, and then expand that territory out to give you the range of salespeople. So some clever coding will get you there. Obviously, for the salespeople, we've just in this case just got a list of the names, so I can just see a list of the names. And likewise with the marketing campaigns, we've just got, you know, the summer and the winter catalogue or whatever we need. So basically, we need to define what are the KPIs that you want to analyse the business by. So these are the headings, and then obviously we put the values. Where we see these are in the documents and in the customer transactions and so on. So if I look at a customer card again, and let's look at the Canon Group. So we have here the Canon Group, and here is the balance. Anything that is blue and hyperlinked I can drill down onto, and you can see here that we've got all of the transactions. And what we've got over here on the right hand side are the dimensions. So here is the customer group and here is the area code. And obviously with the personalised, I can turn on the other ones as well. So I could turn on, so there's the department code and there's the project code. Yeah, so basically I've got some of the dimensions, so they are tagged on the transactions, and that doesn't matter whether I'm looking at sales or purchases or general ledger or inventory. It's tagging all of the transactions and they're going all the way through the system. So if I want to go and look now at the chart of accounts, so this is my great search button here, and the more I give it, the further it goes. So here's the list views, and here are the reports, and then any documentation. So here's my chart of accounts list, here's my chart of accounts. So if I scroll down to the P&L section, for example, here are my sales. So when I drill down onto a sales balance, you will see that I've got dimensions here. So there's my department and project code. And yeah, here's my area, my business group, and my sales code. So here's all my areas. Then I've got a business group. So obviously these and there's my customer group as well. So large or medium type customers. So all of these tags that we're putting on the transactions, we need to set up somewhere. So what we actually do is on the customer card, where we can, in these fact boxes on the right hand side, we basically tag the customer. So as long as the customer doesn't move from, in this case, area 30, which we know is Northern Europe, then basically we want him always to be tagged with that area. And the same with the customer and the same with the department, that he basically is not moving out the sales department. We know what size customer is, perhaps we review it once a year, but basically all of these things remain the same. We have some business logic here, as you can see. So I've got code mandatory and I've got same code. So we can't change that. It has to be medium, and that this area code has to be entered. Purchaser, we've got set to no code because obviously it's not relevant on a sales account. But we could here have a scenario for the salesperson, and it may be whoever takes the order gets the flag for that, for the commission or the sale attributed to them. So on this basis, we've left the salesperson code blank, but we've made it a mandatory code, which means that I will not be able to post any transactions without entering a salesperson code. That way, when we flip our data through multiple facets, which I'll show you in a moment, we wouldn't, our balances will reconcile in every direction, unlike my data here. As you've seen, we've already got holes in some of our data. So you can set these up against, this is against the customers, but that could easily be against the chart of accounts. It could be against the inventory. It could be against anything we want. So basically, if we were to look at the dimensions on this account. There probably aren't any being a balance sheet account, but basically we can specify the dimensions. We can specify the dimensions against this account. So obviously I would put the dimension code of what I required. So if this was something like photography in my P&L, I might want to put the fact that if we're doing a marketing campaign, that we want to basically put a code mandatory in here from a marketing point of view. Yeah. So you can set dimensions on any master data anywhere through the system, so that when we actually come to want to review our reports, we can use dimensions as filters, but we can also use them as reporting. So we want to basically look at some analysis views. So you can predefine these analysis views. So here I've got one with just one dimension on it for department. So if we look at this analysis view, I'm predefining what account ranges I'm looking at. So here I'm looking at my cost of sales and my overheads. Yeah, and I only want one department to show on here. So basically, we predefine the accounts that we want to look at, and then we run this report. Oops, one too far back. So into analysis views. So that's where we were. So if I come back one, and then we run this analysis report. So we're looking at the lines as a GL account and the columns as periods, and we want to, so we can put on lots of filters, as you can see. So let's look at 01, 12, 21, ... 31, 01, 22. Okay. So when I press show matrix, it's now going to give me December and January, which is what I put the filter on for. Here are all my purchases, and here are all my overheads. So, you know, a fairly typical financial type report, but doesn't help me when I'm trying to get my analysis by department. So if I now say same period of time, but instead of having my columns as periods, what I want my columns are to be departments, then obviously the same GL codes. Let me redo my 01, 22, 21, 31, 01, 22. So December and January. And when I go show matrix this time, then basically I've got my purchasing, and then when I scroll down here, I've got my overheads coming through, and here I've got them by admin, by production, and by sales. So basically I've got my all of my office supplies, my phone, fax, my overheads, everything that I want from my chart of accounts, but now split out by dimension, because that department dimension has been tagged on those transactions. As you can see, these are hyperlinked, so I can drill down to the transactions underneath, and you can see here I've got the breakdown of my department code. I may well have other dimensions on there as well, but for purposes of this one, we're just looking at departmental expenses. You can also see that this goes to Excel. So basically you can use these reports to be the start of your management reporting pack, for example. So the campaign analysis here, this one is looking at 4 dimensions. It's looking at marketing campaign, area, business group, and salesperson. So from that point of view, when I look at this as a report, we're looking here at sales and cost of sales coming from my chart of accounts. And I've specified 4 dimensions. So from that point of view, as well as time and as well as GL code and time, I can look at up to 4 facets on this. So when we look at this by dimension, let's put my date filter on. I've got so much demo data in here, and we go show matrix. So here I've got my sales for December and January, showing my sales and my cost of sales coming down here. So there's my total revenue, and then there's my total costs down here. And obviously I could then put this into Excel and then have a gross profit coming from that. So fairly straightforward, nothing very interesting. But if I flip this and say, well, let's have this by area, I can still show this by period. And if we look at this, so here I've got December and January, and I've got it now split through by area. But I can also now flip the columns. So actually, let's say we were running a marketing campaign, or we got a different price list. And so basically, I want to know what that is by by marketing campaign. So what did we do within the areas by the marketing campaign? And now when I flip it, I've got my marketing campaign and I've got my sales in different areas. So suddenly, you know, we can actually see quite a lot more information. So we didn't do anything in the winter campaign in Northern Europe. You know, why is that? What's going on? And again, I can go back because I've got my other dimensions on here. So I could choose my salesperson, I could use my business group. So whatever dimensions I've predefined for this report. So dimensions are very, very powerful in the system. And these are the reports that you can define to get that dimensional analysis out from that point of view. Okay. Something else I wanted to show you was the integration with Office 365 and Outlook. Here I've got an email from Stuart that he's looking for 4 Paris chairs and 2 Athens desks. So basically a customer has just sent in a quote, an email to Dan Cook to basically ask for a quote for some product. In the 3 little dots here, I can now open Business Central. So I can open it, or I can go and literally create a new quote from here. So when I click into this, it's opening a Business Central and logging me in as Dan Cook. Now it's found Stuart Hardman in multiple companies. That may well be feasible. So we're actually in the DC demo company. So I'm going to create a quote against Dan Cook, against Stuart Hardman in this company. So basically, it's now tried to match that information so that we can create the desk, create the quote. So basically, it's found 1900S, which is the Paris guest chair in black, and it's put the quantity on there as well. And we're looking for 1896, the Athens desk. So there's the quantity for 4 and 2 Athens desks. If there were any mismatched lines, then basically it would flag them and it would give us a warning. So basically, if I'm happy with everything, I can tick these 2 lines to say we want to add them, yeah, and then tick this button here, and it's going to create a quote for me. So here is the quote header. Yeah, so with the address and all the information, there are the 2 lines. And obviously I've got the prices come through for this particular customer, giving me my overall document total here with VAT and shipment details, etc., etc. So a lot more information going on there. What I can now do is I can send this by email. So basically, as soon as I click this button, it's going to create me a draft email, because obviously we're not connected out to the outside world. This is a demo environment. But what I can also do is I can make order or make invoice, or even copy a document. So I've got a fairly large amount of functionality within my inbox here. So I'm going to go and send this by email. So this is quote number 1024 that is being created now. And here you go. Here's my quote for 1024 that's here as a draft. And here is the quote attached to that as a PDF. Obviously, it's picking up the logo and the address and everything from the company information. So there's my 4 Paris guest chairs, my 2 Athens desks with the pricing as a document. And obviously, all I have to do now is send that off to my customer who was inquiring. If I come back in here and go open sales quotes and scroll down, there is 1024 here, going to Dynamics Consultants with all the desk details, and there are my 2 lines. So it's a true live link between Outlook and all of the things that you could do within that panel to the system. So that works the same for sales and purchases, and basically you can do quite a lot of information within that panel. So they haven't even had to leave Office 365. So we've had a look at how we can personalize our screens. We've had a look at filtering. We've had a look at the integration with Office. We've had a look at the integration with Outlook, and we've had a look at dimensions. There is plenty of reporting all through the system, as you've already seen. All of this is configurable and tailorable, and it's got a great user experience. So hopefully you found that very useful as a quick overview, high-level overview to the capabilities of what Business Central can do for you. Okay, so one of the other things that I wanted to show you was the power of AI, which is already in the system. So here we have our Paris guest chair that we've already touched on a couple of times, with various other fast tabs around how we navigate the system. But what we have over here on the right hand side is the forecast. So this is AI already in the system. So here we have the ability to show the inventory forecast. So this is the inventory that we're going to require over the next 6 months projecting forward. So we're in January now. Here's February, March, April, May, June. So we obviously don't sell a lot of chairs in June, but I can also flip this to show us the sales forecast. So this is looking the other way. Obviously, we're not going to sell many, but actually we're going to need a lot more in June. So we're forecasting 73 to be selling in June. This is based on usage. So this is basically looking at the usage that we've done in the previous months. What you will also see here is the ability to create purchase orders or create purchase invoices. So from that point of view, if I know that I can see from my information that we're not going to have a lot of stock here, so we're only going to have 56 in stock in June, but we can see from our sales forecast that actually we're going to need 73, then basically I can go here and raise a purchase order. So this will put this item straight onto a purchase order. This is assuming that I've got my replenishment and planning set up with the alternative vendors that I use for this item. It will create a purchase order, but what it will also do is warn me if I've got any other items that need to be ordered from this vendor as well. So it can add those to the purchase orders, or it could just create me a purchase invoice straight away. So this forecasting module is some AI that is already in the system. So you can see the integration, as we've already mentioned, with Power BI, with the Office products, with Microsoft 365, and with Outlook and the email integration. So it truly is a 21st century system.